I'm just saying, maybe leave the grilling to the experts next time, honey. Remember the smoke alarm incident.
All right, that's enough.
I always thought marriage was a test of patience. That swallowing your pride, biting your tongue, and just enduring things quietly was a sign of maturity. For years, I told myself that this was what love looked like, absorbing little jabs, laughing off dismissive comments, and convincing myself it was all just a joke. It took one sunny afternoon in my own backyard for me to finally understand just how wrong I was. The barbecue was my idea. Nothing fancy, just a simple get-together with friends and neighbors. I wanted laughter, good music, and the smell of burgers on the grill. I spent the whole morning cleaning the yard, setting up chairs, and making sure everything was perfect. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I just wanted to create a good day, a happy memory. My wife, though, seemed on edge from the moment she woke up. But as our guests started to arrive, she completely transformed. Suddenly, she was the life of the party, loud, charming, and radiating a confidence that drew everyone in. She thrived on being the center of attention. I was happy to stay by the grill, flipping burgers and chatting with friends. It felt comfortable, relaxed, but then the comments started. She let out a loud laugh and said something to a group of friends about how I could and even handle a simple grill without making a mess of it. A few people chuckled and I forced a smile. I told myself it was just her way of joking around. But then came another comment, this time sharper, about how I always seemed to disappoint when it came to simple tasks. The laughter that followed felt different. It was awkward, uncomfortable. I could feel my face getting hot. This wasn't new, of course. She had a habit of mocking me, always framing it as harmless teasing. But this time, standing there in front of people I cared about, people I respected, something inside me just cracked. I glanced around and saw pity on some faces, confusion and embarrassment on others. They weren't just embarrassed for me. They were embarrassed by the whole situation. I walked over to her and asked her quietly, "Can you please stop?" I thought she'd understand. Instead, she leaned into it, making it worse. "Oh, look everyone, he's getting sensitive now." Another joke at my expense, another round of forced laughter from the crowd. The words didn't sting because they were clever. They stung because they were cruel, and because I had heard them in one form or another 1,000 times before. And in that moment I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just tired. So incredibly tired. I put the grilling tongs down on the side table, took a deep breath to steady myself, and spoke clearly. I didn't shout. I didn't insult her back. I just said, "I'm done being humiliated in my own home." The entire yard went silent. Conversations froze. Music seemed to fade into the background. At first she laughed, thinking I was finally playing along with her game. But when she saw the look on my face and realized I was serious, her smile vanished. I turned to our guests. "I'm so sorry to make this awkward," I said. "I just need to get some air." I walked back into the house, grabbed my keys from the counter, and walked out the front door. Behind me I could hear her calling my name first, shocked, then angry, then demanding. I didn't look back. I just got in my car and drove. I didn't have a destination. I just drove, replaying years of moments just like that one moments I had brushed off, ignored, or made excuses for. The jokes that always crossed a line. The dismissive waves of her hand when I tried to share an idea. The condescending tone she used when she thought I wasn't listening. I kept asking myself, when did I allow myself to become the punchline in my own life? When did I decide that my self-respect was less important than keeping the peace? I finally parked at a quiet lookout point and just sat there as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. For the first time in years, I wasn't trying to justify her behavior. I wasn't trying to figure out how to fix things or what I could have done differently. I was just listening to myself, to the quiet, exhausted voice inside me that had been screaming for a long, long time. When I finally drove home, the house felt heavy and silent. She was waiting for me in the living room, her expression a mix of defensiveness and raw emotion. She started to apologize, but it quickly turned into a list of excuses. It was the stress from her job. It was the wine. She was just trying to be funny, and I took it the wrong way. I held up my hand and told her, calmly, that it wasn't about the barbecue, it was about respect. I explained how her words, like a slow drip of water, had worn me down over the years. I told her how being constantly mocked by the person who was supposed to be my partner, my biggest supporter, had damaged something fundamental inside me. I said I didn't want another argument. I wanted real change, or I needed distance. She started to cry then, saying she never, ever meant to hurt me, that she just didn't realize how far she'd gone. In the past, this would have been my cue to rush over, to comfort her, to tell her it was okay. But this time, I didn't move. I just stood there and told her I needed space to think. The weeks that followed were quiet and painful, but also strangely liberating. I stayed with a friend, went to work, started exercising again. I started sleeping through the night, a luxury I hadn't realized I'd lost. Without the constant background noise of criticism and sarcasm, I started to feel like myself again, capable, confident, whole. She reached out often. Sometimes her texts were apologetic. Other times, they were defensive, blaming me for being too sensitive. Eventually, we started talking, really talking. Without the jokes, without the power games, without the audience. She admitted that a lot of it came from her own insecurity, her deep-seated fear of being seen as ordinary. Tearing me down, she confessed, made her feel bigger, more important. Hearing that hurt, but it also brought a strange kind of clarity. I told her that I still loved her, but I couldn't live like that anymore. My love for her couldn't come at the cost of my love for myself. We tried counseling. We learned how to communicate without attacking, how to listen without interrupting. Some days were filled with hope, others were brutally, painfully honest. And in the end, we came to a difficult but necessary realization: love alone isn't enough to fix a relationship if respect has to be relearned after it's been completely lost. We decided to separate. It wasn't a decision made in anger, but one of mutual acceptance. We both knew it was the right thing to do. Months later, my life is completely different. It's quieter, calmer, and so much healthier. I host barbecues in my backyard again. I laugh freely and loudly, without a flicker of fear that I'll be ridiculed for it.